Hello everyone, I'm Anita and I'm really excited to welcome you to the Christmas Eve Wishes crochet along. Before we start, you can find links to all the information you need about materials and where to find the pattern in the description box. I'm working in UK terms, but the pattern is available to download in both UK and US terms, and I'll try my best to give you both in the videos as we work through. Okay, let's make some festive cheer. So we're starting with the green yarn, a 4mm hook, and we're going to make a foundation chain. So first of all, make a slip knot. Pop it on your hook, and we're going to chain 152. So to chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through. And your hook should be sliding quite easily through your chains. If you find you're having to tug to get your hook through the chains, it probably means they're a little bit tight. That's going to make it harder for you to work your first row, and it might make the bottom edge of your blanket curve and not sit straight. So not too tight, 152 chains, and I'm going to keep chaining and I'll meet you when I get to the end. So here's my chain. My chain's quite short because I'm only making a sample for this video, but you should have 152 stitches. And now it's time to work row 1, and row 1 is made up of UK treble stitches, which are US double crochet stitches, and I'm going to make my first treble crochet stitch in the 4th chain from the hook. So to do this, yarn over, and then I'm going to count 4 stitches from the hook. And we never count this loop that's on the hook, we just count the stitches below. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the chain I'm going to make my first UK treble or US double crochet stitch in. So I've got my yarn over, going to insert the hook into that chain, pull up a loop, so I have 3 loops on my hook. Going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and that is my first treble crochet stitch complete. And this chain 3, so these 3 skip chains, these count as the first treble crochet. So this actually, when we're counting, this counts as 2 treble crochet stitches. So I'll show you that stitch again. Yarn over, insert the hook into the chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and that's another stitch complete. And we're just going to repeat this all the way along the row. So I've reached the end of my chain, and now is a good time to count your stitches, and you should have 150 UK treble crochet stitches, US double crochet stitches, including those first 3 skipped chains. So we're going to count that as the first stitch, so 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., and you should have 150. So time for row 2. So I'm going to chain 2. This gives me some height to start working my next row, and then it's time to turn the work. And it's a good idea to always turn your work in the same direction because it will give you a nice neat edge, and I like to turn my work under. So here we are ready to start row 2. This is a stripe row, and these appear lots of times throughout the pattern, and they'll always be worked in exactly the same way. So we've started with a chain 2. In the pattern it says that this counts as the first stitch and to skip the first stitch, and all this means is that because this is our first stitch, we don't make another stitch into this one below. So we're going to skip this stitch and we're going to make our first treble crochet of this row into the next stitch. So the 2 chain counts as a stitch, skip the first stitch, so we're going to yarn over, insert into that second stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And then you're just going to make a treble crochet stitch in each stitch along the row. So I'm nearly at the end of row 2, and the last stitch of row 2 can be a little tricky to see. It's actually going to go into the 3rd chain of the turning 3 chain, so those 3 skipped chains from the beginning. And if I just open this up here, you can see there's a little hole in the top of that 3rd chain. So we've got 1, 2, 3 chains, there's a little hole, and that's where my stitch is going to go. So I'm just going to pop my last stitch into the top of that chain, and that will be the 150th stitch in your row. Mine's a bit shorter, and it's a good idea just to check your stitch count at this point, just to make sure that you do still have 150 stitches and you haven't missed anything. So row 3 now, chain 2, turn, and this is exactly the same as row 2. So the 2 chain counts as the first stitch, so we're not going to place a treble crochet in this stitch here. We're going to skip that one, place our first treble crochet, US double crochet in the next stitch, and then repeat in each stitch along. And you need to do 2 rows, this one and one more, in exactly the same way. So I've reached the end of row 4, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of UK treble crochet stitches, that's US double crochet stitches. And row 5 is different. Row 5 is made up of UK double crochet stitches, that's US single crochet stitches, and bobbles. And double crochet stitches are a shorter stitch than we've been making in the rows below. So instead of chaining 2 and turning, this time we just chain 1 and turn. So chain 1 and turn your work. So now I'm ready to work row 5, and any row throughout the pattern that starts with a 1 chain where we're going to work double crochet stitches, the 1 chain does not count as a stitch. So unlike the previous rows where the 2 chain counted as a stitch and we skipped this first stitch and worked into the next one, this 1 chain does not count as a stitch. So I'm going to work my first double crochet stitch into this very first stitch of the row. So to do this, insert your hook, no yarn over first this time, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops on your hook. And that is 1 UK double crochet or 1 US single crochet completed. Now the pattern says to work 3 double crochet and then a bobble in cream, so we've got a colour change coming up. So I'm going to work 1 more double crochet in green, so insert hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through. That's 2 double crochet. And in this third double crochet I'm going to change to cream, because we always change colours in the stitch before we need to use the new colour. So to do this, I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, so there's 2 loops on my hook, and then instead of doing a yarn over and completing the stitch in green, I'm going to take my cream yarn, I'm going to fold it over to make a loop, pop the loop on the hook, pull the loop through and complete the stitch with the cream instead of the green. Now just bring the tail towards you. So that's your colour change completed, and you're now ready to move on to the cream bobble. So here I am ready to start my bobble. I've changed to cream in the third double crochet stitch. So I've got cream on my hook ready to make the bobble, and I'm going to make the bobble into this next stitch along on the row, so the 4th stitch of the row. So first of all, I'm just going to bring the green yarn to the front, out of the way, so it doesn't get mixed up in my bobble. And I'm going to yarn over, insert the hook into that next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So now I have 2 loops on my hook. And rather than finishing that stitch, I'm going to repeat this again. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. I'm going to do that again. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So I've now got 4 loops on my hook, and I'm going to do this twice more. So yarn over, insert hook into that same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and 1 more, yarn over into the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on my hook. And to finish the bobble, I'm going to do that with the green. So cream out of the way, I'm going to take the cream across the bobble, behind the hook, in front of the hook, and then I'm going to pull the green through all 6 cream loops. So just make sure your hook is pointing downwards so it slides through easily. And I'm just going to pull through all 6 loops. And that is what's going to pull the bobble together. So now it's time to go back to the green. We're using the green to make 3 more double crochet stitches. So bring the cream towards you, and I'm going to work my first double crochet stitch of the next 3 over the cream. So I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through, and you'll see 2 things have happened here. On the front of the work, the bobble has popped out. We've been working on the back, and the cream yarn is trapped inside that double crochet stitch, so you can't see it, it's hidden. I'll show you that again. I'm going to work another double crochet, so that's my second one of my group of 3, and that cream yarn is still hidden inside the stitch. And then I'm going to work 1 more, and this time we're going to colour change. So insert my hook, pull up the green, and this time we're going to change to cream. So we take the cream, yarn over and pull through to change to cream. So we bring the green to the front because we're going to make a bobble now, and we don't want that green getting tangled up in the bobble, and we want it in the right place when we've got all our loops on the hook. So bobble into the next stitch, so the fourth one along, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops, that's 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, that's 4 loops on the hook, five loops on the hook, six loops on the hook, put the cream out of the way, bring the green across, under the hook and over, pull through all 6 loops, bring your cream to the front, and then double crochet, squeaky hook, to secure that bobble in place over the cream yarn. And if I just turn that over, you can see that the bobbles are popping out on the right side. Let's turn it around so you can see it. So I'm at the end of row 5 now. I've worked my last bobble and there are just 2 stitches left. So 1 double crochet into each stitch, now it's time to start row 6, and row 6 is treble crochet stitches, US double crochet stitches, the same as the rows below, so the same as these rows. So I'm going to chain 2, turn, still turning my work under, and because this 2 chain counts as the first stitch, exactly the same as before, I'm going to ignore this stitch here, and I'm going to put my first treble crochet stitch into the next stitch along. So just pop it into here. And then my next stitch is going to go into the top of the bobble. So if we just look at the top of this row, it looks exactly the same as the green stitches. So you've got this V shape, 2 loops. I'm going to yarn over, pop the hook into there, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops in the usual way. So then we've got our 3 green stitches, so I'm going to pop 1 treble crochet in each, and then my next stitch is going in the top of the bobble. So yarn over, pop the stitch in the top of the bobble, and you simply repeat this all the way along until you've finished your row. So I'm nearly at the end of row 6, and I've just been repeating that pattern of 1 treble crochet in each of the 3 green double crochet in the row below, followed by 1 treble crochet in the top of the bobble. And when you get to the end of the row, it's a good idea to just count your stitches to make sure you still have 150 and that you haven't picked one up somewhere or dropped one along the way. So here we go, It's the end of row 6. Got our bobbles popping out nicely. And rows 7, 8 and 9 are exactly the same as row 2 below. So you will end up with 4 rows of treble crochet below your bobble row and 4 rows of treble crochet above your bobble row. So row 7, exactly the same as row 2, chain 2, turn your work, skip that first stitch and then 1 treble crochet in each stitch along, and after this row you repeat this 2 more times. So you have 4 rows of treble crochet below your bobble row and 4 rows above. So here we are at the end of row 9, and rows 10 and 11 are exactly the same as these stripe rows, just repeated, but they're in cream. So we need to do a colour change, and the colour change at the end of a row is done in exactly the same way as we changed the colour to make the cream bobbles. So rather than finish the stitch, I've got 2 loops left on my hook, so I'm not doing that last yarn over and pull through to complete the treble crochet stitch. So I've got 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to take the cream yarn, fold it over, put a loop on the hook and pull that through to finish the stitch, and then just pull the green tight. Here's your tail that you can sew in later, and then we just carry on exactly as before. So that's a chain 2, turn, skip that first stitch because the 2 chains count as a stitch, so into the next stitch, and just treble crochet in each stitch along. And when you get to the end, turn round, come back again, so you have 2 rows in cream. So I'm almost at the end of row 11, and I've got my 2 rows of cream, and row 12 is green, so I'm just going to show you that colour change again. So I'm going to pop my last stitch in, and rather than finishing it with the last yarn over and pull through, I'm going to take my green yarn, fold it over to make a loop, pop the loop on the hook and pull through to change colour and to finish that stitch. And I've got a tail about 4 to 5 inches or 12 to 14 centimetres that I can sew in later. Chain 2, turn, skip the first stitch, and then 1 stitch in each across. So I'm nearly at the end of row 12, and the next 3 rows 13, 14 and 15 worked together make up what I've called the candy cane stripe, and this happens several times throughout the blanket. Might be in a different combination of colours, but wherever it appears it will always be worked in exactly the same way. So I'm nearly at the end of the row, and I'm going to change to cream. And I'm doing that in my last pull through. So I've changed to cream, and anywhere in the pattern where it says change to another colour, where it's at the beginning of a row, you can cut off the previous colour. So I don't need the green for the moment. So row 13 is the first row of the candy cane stripe, and this is made up of UK half treble crochet stitches or US half double crochet stitches. So to start, we're going to chain 2, turn, and the chain 2 still counts as a stitch, so we're still going to skip that first stitch, and we're going to put our first half treble crochet stitch in the second stitch along. And to make a half treble crochet, you yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch and pull up a loop. And instead of doing a yarn over and pull through 2 loops as you would with a treble crochet or a US double crochet, you yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and that makes your half treble UK or half double crochet US stitch. So I'll show you that again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And I'm going to repeat that in every stitch across the row. So I'm at the end of row 13 now, and it's time for a new colour. I always get excited when it's time for a new colour. So I'm going to bring in the red, same as before, fold over, pull through a loop. I'm going to cut the cream. Okay, so to start this row, we're going to chain 3 this time. So 1, 2, 3, turn, and this time we're going to skip 2 stitches, and the reason for this is we've chained 3 and that counts as 1 half treble crochet and 1 chain. So 2 of the chains count as the half treble crochet and 1 of the chains is just a chain, and that chain is going to take us across a skipped stitch. So we're going to skip the first stitch because the chain 2 counts as that stitch, and then we're going to skip the second stitch because we've got a chain that's going to allow us to skip over it, and then we're going to yarn over and make a half treble crochet in the third stitch along. So that's 1, 2, 3. So we've got our 2 chains counting as the first half treble crochet. We've got a chain and then a half treble crochet in the third stitch along. And then we're going to chain 1. And that chain allows us to skip another stitch. So we're going to skip a stitch, half treble crochet and chain 1, and we're going to repeat this all along the row. So yarn over, skip a stitch, half treble crochet, chain 1, yarn over, skip a stitch, half treble crochet, chain 1. So I'm coming towards the end of the row. Try to make sure that you don't make your chains too tight, because you might find it pulls these stitches and they're all leaning. You want them to be standing upright. So I'm nearly there. Half treble crochet, chain, and when you get to the end of the row, pop your last half treble crochet in and you will have 1 stitch left at the end of the row. So we're going to ignore that one for the moment. Cut the red yarn and we're going to fasten off by pulling the tail of the yarn through the loop and giving it a pull. Don't need to pull it really tight. And that's what your row should look like, with one stitch left at the end. So row 15 is cream, and we're going to join the cream in this last stitch here. So I'm going to insert my hook, pull through a loop of cream. Here's my tail to sew in later. Chain 2 and turn my work. And now along this row we're going to alternate between half treble crochet stitches and treble crochet stitches. So that's US half double crochet stitches and US double crochet stitches. And the first stitch is going to go in the top of this red stitch here where I'm pointing, and that's going to be a half treble crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through three loops. It's a tongue twister. And then my next stitch is going to go in this skipped stitch in the row below, and this is going to be a treble crochet stitch. So yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And then I'm just going to alternate along the row between half treble crochet stitches and treble crochet stitches. So my next stitch is a half treble, yarn over, insert into that next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, and then a double crochet stitch, yarn over, insert into that skipped stitch in the row below, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and just repeat that all the way along the row. So half treble, treble. So I'm nearly at the end of the row, got half treble in here, treble crochet in the row below, and the very last stitch is a little bit fiddly. So the last stitch is a half treble crochet, and it's going to go in the second chain of those first 3 chains that you made. So the 2 chains that counted as the half treble and the one that counted for the chain for the skip stitch. So I'm just going to pop a half treble crochet in the second chain up. So we've got 1 chain, 2 chains. So I'm going to yarn over and make a half treble in that second chain. Now I'm going to cut the cream yarn, but I'm not going to fasten it off because we're going to carry on from here in week 2. So here's my full size blanket completed to the end of week 1. We've got our 4 rows of treble crochet, US double crochet. We've got a UK double crochet, US single crochet row with bobbles. 4 more treble crochet rows in green, 2 treble crochet rows in cream, 1 treble crochet row in green, and then we've got our candy cane stripe. And I've got my cream yarn cut but not fastened off, and this is where we're going to carry on next week. And there's one more thing that I'd like to show you this week, and that is sewing in the tails, the dreaded sewing in the tails. If you keep up with it every week, it's not such a big job, and it's really not that horrible. So grab a needle, and I'm going to show you how to sew your tails in. So here is how I sew in my tails. For easy needle threading, fold the yarn over the needle and pinch it between finger and thumb and pull the needle out. And then you should be able to just pop that little flat loop you've made through the eye of the needle and thread it on. No licking required. I'll show you that again. Fold the yarn over the needle, pinch between finger and thumb, pull the needle out, and then just pop that loop through the eye of the needle. There we go, all ready to go. And to sew in your end, on the reverse side, so this is the back, just thread your needle under a few stitches. Turn it over just to make sure that you can't see the needle on the front. If you can see the needle, you'd be able to see the yarn, and you don't want to see that. Pull through, and don't pull too tight. You don't want to distort this edge by pulling too tightly. And then just catch a few threads of one stitch, again making sure it can't be seen on the front, and then pop your needle in and go back the way you came. Pull through. Make sure you don't pull too hard and distort these stitches. And then you can just snip off. I'll just show you this row. This time I'm going to sew the tail into the row above. If I was to sew this tail along this green row, you'd be able to see the cream yarn against the green stitches. And it's always a good idea to try and sew the tails into their own colour so you can't see them on either side. So thread my needle. So instead of going into this row, I'm going to go into the one above, thread my needle under a few stitches, don't pull too tight so you lose the height of the stitch. And then thread back the way you came. And snip off, and your sewn in tails should be completely invisible. And if you do that now, you will thank me at the end when you don't have a big job. That's the end of week 1. Next week we're going to move on to snowflakes and colour changes, and I promise you it's nowhere near as difficult as it looks. You will be flying through it in no time. If you have any questions about what we've been working on this week, you could email me. You can message me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm Madebyanita on both. Or you can come and say hi in the Sirdar Facebook Make-Along group. It's a really friendly group, and there'll be lots of people to help you with any questions you have. And it's really fun working with other people. All of the contact details I'll pop in the description box below so you can find them easily. Have a lovely week. Enjoy your crochet, and I'll see you next time.